Can you think of any other hazards? Ants. Oh my God, Ilsa says ants. Beware of ants. That's a huge one. I had ants in Mexico eat through my entire tent. They literally Swiss cheesed the entire sidewall. They even ate a hole, like a big hole through the bathtub floor. And I woke up covered head to toe in them, just like biting the hell out of me. And then it took an entire day sitting on top of a rooftop in a hostel to like sew all the holes that they made in my tent. Luckily, bug spray worked. So I was able to just like spray my tent and all my gear because they were shredding my gear as well. And that like kept them away so that I could at least get through the night safely. But yeah, always take note of just anything in your surroundings. And then yeah, watch out for any pokey things when you get in your tent at night. Just like give it a nice pat down and make sure you're not going to get a hole in your sleeping pad because that's never fun.
And then you listen for bubbles.
When it comes to selecting a campsite, there's a few things that I always try to look for. Number one is going to be sheltered sites. There are certainly times that I want to camp exposed and out so that I can look at the stars and yeah, just maybe watch the sunset, watch the sunrise, like plan some beautiful place. But if the weather looks like it could take a turn for the worst, or I know that there's like the potential for bad weather in the forecast, then I'm definitely gonna like survey the land and try to plan the campsite so that I'm gonna have some form of shelter in the form of like some like tree cover like this if I can find it, or if it's like gonna be a more open place, I'm gonna look for some like shrubs or maybe some sort of like depression in the landscape, anywhere that I can get like low down and out of the wind mainly. I always try to avoid any sort of like small depression. You want to look for anything that water can like pull into, collect, or even just like run through, and just like take notice of like debris field anywhere that it looks like water has been like puddling. That's when you could wake up and find yourself floating like in a bathtub. It's just gonna fill up if it rains hard, and that's never a fun night.
Camped in a burn zone tonight, so hopefully no trees fall on the tent.
Hazards to watch for. Widowmakers are probably the most dangerous, so watch for any sort of dead trees that could fall in a windstorm. Look for big limbs that are hanging up above you. Watch out for flash flood areas, especially if you're in the desert. You don't want to camp in like drainage basins or anything if you think that there's going to be the potential for a storm. Although sometimes you don't have a choice and you camp there anyway, and then just be ready to get out if you do hear that thunder or whatever rumbling in the distance. Bears! Bears, I mean, yeah, just make sure that your food is like well secured, however it is for the environment that you're in, whether that's a bear can or if they actually have bear lockers, make sure you're using them. A lot of thru hikers will sleep with their food when it's appropriate. I certainly sleep with my food on most occasions. On the Great Divide Trail, we did not sleep with our food. At least very rarely did we sleep with our food. We hung it safely each night, and Ilsa had an earth sack that she could secure to a tree. But for the most part, bears aren't something to really be too concerned with. I mean, just be smart, be aware.
Hey bear!
Hey bear!
And take the proper precautions, but they're beautiful to see, and just keep your distance. Gear. Yeah, gear for the mountains. That's a tricky one. It depends where you are, the time of year, what you're doing, who you're with. So gear recommendations are always a very personal matter. This isn't a video specifically on the gear there, but just make sure that you're adequately prepared for the situation. Maybe have a fire starter if you think you might need a fire. That's always a good thing to have. That really came in handy for us on the Great Divide Trail. When it rained every single night, the condensation would soak our sleeping bags through every single night. So we were just wet and very, very cold. So we were able to have fires almost every day, even in the rain. I carried little bricks of fire starter just to help get it going, and then finding dry tinder. That was still like, you can almost always find dry tinder to get it going when you have like a nice fire starter to help you there. But that was huge. So especially just keep our morale up. Yeah, so make sure you're just like properly prepared for whatever situation you're going into. Do your research and carry what you need to get through it. You'll see a lot of thru hikers that carry the very minimal basic kits. They're generally more experienced, and when you are more experienced, you can get away with more things because you know your limits and you know how far you can push.
Pretty tired. I'm really hungry. Almost dizzying hungry.
And if you really had to, you could literally walk for days without stopping and get yourself out of the situation. Or if it's cold, hypothermic conditions, keep moving, jumping jacks, move through the night, whatever you have to do. So the more you know, the less you can get away with. But then there's always the chance that you break a leg and you're alone and something happens, and now you still want to make sure that you can stay warm and live. So be careful going too small. I know ultralight is very popular these days, but if you're not super experienced, then carry a little extra just so that you can carry some extra clothes, especially if you're in damper, moist conditions. If you're going into the mountains, don't be afraid to carry a little too much stuff. I know that's kind of big these days with the ultralight, and nobody wants to be seen with the giant monster pack, but yeah, if you've never really been out there before, if you're not entirely sure what you should carry, then carry an extra jacket, carry an extra layer, make sure you have the rain jacket, make sure that you have like all the basics covered for sure. And then as you learn more, you can start to leave things out and experiment, stay close to home and test your limits, push them a little bit. What else do we got? Campsite hazards. All right. So camping when the weather turns bad, it can often be type 3 fun, but in the moment, the adrenaline, the excitement of it can make for, at the very least, a good story. So yeah, I don't know. I really love thunderstorms. They're not always the best to camp in, but it's an experience for sure, one that you're gonna have in the mountains and in nature, and it's something to just cherish and deal with. And stay positive out there, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. If you're stealth camping by chance, say you're on a bike tour, take note of sprinklers. That's always a horrible way to wake up. Yeah, but if you're out in the wilderness, I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that experience, but that is really awful. I've camped in some cemeteries, so that's where that little tip comes from, and golf courses too.